All right, so this is a 1977 Peugeot 103, and kind of wanted to talk a little bit about mopeds in general, but then also kind of open up a little bit about where we're going to go on this channel. And as you can see, I took off on this Peugeot. I took off the front fender, took off the back fender, didn't like it at all. The whole back platform is stupid, don't like it. And so this is all stock, and I've bought a lot of these mopeds, a lot of small displacement bikes over the years. And a couple things you want to keep in mind as you buy a moped. Number one rule is you want to make sure, if you don't know the condition of it, that you can actually move the piston. So will it crank? Okay, so this cranks over. Easy peasy. If you can, it doesn't crank over, even if you're not getting spark, obviously you have a major issue and it's not worth really that much money. If you can buy there's other things on it that you like and you need, that's fine, but don't pay more than 40 bucks if the motor's not running really well, unless you need a part from that engine or whatnot. That's the first thing to test, obviously, every time. Next thing is, when you go out to get a moped or a small displacement bike, it's nice to bring along something to remove the spark plug, because when you remove the spark plug, you can tell two things immediately. You can put your thumb or your index finger over the spark plug hole, and then when you crank it, you can figure out how much you got. Any compression? And if you don't have a lot of compression, it's still fine. You can replace the head, no problem. You can get some new rings on the piston or gaskets, or that's not a big thing, but it just cuts your workload down and it cuts the cost down as well. And obviously the second thing, when you have your spark plug out, is you can test for spark. So you rest it obviously on one of the fins out of the motor, and when you crank it enough time, especially with a moped, you gotta crank it enough, because it'll think that it's in the mode where it's bicycle mode, basically. So if you crank it enough, you'll see it turn over. It should be able to have some spark. And if you got spark, some compression, you're into what you want to think about in terms of, I bought this for 120 bucks. It didn't run, and when you take a bike that doesn't run and has tires that hold air, then you're entering into a phase where if you can get it to run, you're going to cut a lot of people some slack, because maybe they're not as comfortable buying a moped that's many years old if they don't know if it's going to run. So there's really no fear factor if you just have it turn over and make sure it's ready to roll. So with these types of Peugeots 103, there's a ton of aftermarket parts. This carburetor, once you get it, you need to clean it, obviously. And so with this, just put a new line in. Okay, this is a variator. I thought that the variator, there was a problem with it because it would turn over and there wasn't a whole lot of power. These old bikes are grumpy, and so when you turn them over, it takes a lot of time to make sure that it's got enough oil. So what I did is I took the spark plug out and I just gave it enough oil down into the spark plug hole so that everything was lubed up properly. I actually removed this turd of a muffler. This is original, obviously, with Peugeots, but these are so small, so restrictive. I removed it, and that really opened it up, allowed it to breathe, and I think it got its feet back, if you will. And then I put it back in. I'll turn this over, get it going, but a couple other things. I didn't even open the stator case over here. It's a magneto. This is a problem usually with Peugeots, but it hasn't given me any problems. And when you start this bike, if you can get that, this is the choke. So the choke helps obviously to restrict the airflow, so it's creating more of a vacuum, I think. Depends how warm the engine is, but this one, it usually needs the choke engaged. Some mopeds, if you're looking on OfferUp or you're looking on Craigslist, will have this lever here will be basically where you're engaging the clutch. If it's a wet clutch, this is a dry. It's almost like a what you call a torque converter. So this engine moves. It's cool because as the space widens in here, obviously something has to give, and so the motor will move back. And I'll show you that in a second. But if you don't know how to start a moped, you probably shouldn't really be investigating buying one. Just spend a couple of minutes on YouTube and figure out how it starts. It's pretty effortless. These things are great little old engines, and I'm just gonna sell this. I'll sell it probably for double what I paid for it. You're not gonna get rich on this, but you get a creative little hobby and you get to enjoy larger things. So next video we're gonna do is we're going to start this, and I'll show you how it runs, and we'll go from there. All right.